Halloween is almost here, the horror holiday's just around the corner, and what better way to enjoy it than to play a game that has all the elements of terror tales, scary old towns, witch trials, demons, and those 70s TVs with the shitty turn dials, which is probably the scariest part of it all. That's right, Little Hope is finally here. For all four of you waiting, Little Hope is the second in the trilogy of titles from Supermassive in the Dark Pictures Anthology. Let's see if Little Hope holds out any, that it'll be better than Man of Medan, which, let's be honest, isn't like a Goblet of Fire level challenge in the first place. You can get Little Hope for $30 when it comes out, or both Little Hope and Man of Medan for $50. Let's see if it's worth it. As always, if you like the video, maybe subscribe. In Little Hope, you play as a group of 5 characters through a story that wicks through 3 timelines, and that is current 1970s or so around there, and all the way back during the witch trial days as you try to uncover what these characters in these time frames have to do with one another. First, the characters. There's the school teacher, John, who's also another dude back in time and also a shitty dad who drinks a lot. There's Andrew, the youngest son, who's also the main character and some dude back in time. Then there's the oldest sister, Tanya or Taylor, but I like to call her Becca Taters, only because whatever she's wearing looks like a 1970s version of an old restaurant apron. And yeah, she pretty much plays sisters. And then there's Daniel, a douche in pretty much every timeline. Lastly, you get to play as Angela, who's a mom, a possible witch, and always, regardless of the time frame, a stone cold bitch with a side profile of the number 7. Now, the game proper starts out with a detour and a bus crash on a field trip where the destination was apparently picked from the Ghost Hunters TV show and is never really explained other than apparently it had to be 1, in the middle of fucking nowhere, 2, had no people around, and 3, could only have been visited by people who love smoke machines. The game tells the story of these school kids moving through and around the town of Little Hope after the crash, but soon they start to see a mysterious girl as well as having flashbacks to the town's mysterious past, when a witch infection got down deep into the town like an incurable chiggers infestation. And each time you go back, you see characters that look, well, like the ones you're playing now, and you can also affect both their lives as well as the current one as you try to piece this story together. Gameplay is pretty much bog standard for this kind of thing. Look around locations and solve basic mystery puzzles, many times with flashing items that are found around the game world, and then, during action sequences, do the ever-loved QTEs. I do like the Sherlock Holmes 2 kind of camera filming that they have in their QTEs, and that design did a lot to up that action. As you're doing different battles or QTEs, a character will be sprinting away from an enemy and it'll flash and pan over to a different character as you take on their action and then bounce between them, sometimes even bounce between 3 or 4. Very cool. When you're not doing all that, you're arguing and haranguing and discussing and yelling, whispering, talking, teasing, and leading your group to safety, slowly facing more and more extraordinary circumstances. Your hope is to get everyone out of Little Hope alive. How much hope is there? Yeah, just a little. The game does show some serious improvements from Man of Medan in a couple spots, including QuickTime events and cameras. As you work through the mystery, you find these secrets, clues as to what's happening, and the game tracks the dynamic of the relationships between each character, and then occasionally puts you in various situations where you need to save one or the other of the people, and then living through the aftermath of someone yelling at you for not helping them versus, just being happy that they're all alive. The problems with Little Hope, though, start pretty much instantly. I love puzzles and challenges, but many of the connections and situations for like 90% of the game are so laden with seating yourself into the mystery van no one else is driving that it fails to really get you invested. How do you solve a puzzle when you don't even know what the puzzle is or where it is or what it's supposed to be or if it's even a puzzle at all? It's like throwing someone into a random desert and then working for hours to free them only to find out that really there was a chessboard right where they teleported in and you just wanted a quick game in a warm place. And that theme is really throughout the entire game, and something that we saw in Man of Medan, but it seems almost doubled here. The issue with Little Hope is that it also isn't really scary or in any way really interesting. Somehow it still comes off better than that previous game, most likely because that one was really bad. It's paced poorly here, though, with the consistent flashbacks not being near as bothersome as the loathsome walking around at 2 miles per hour. Every time you do, the game gives you this urgent requirement to fulfill, like get out of the forest or stay together. Pretty much any time you're just moving or traveling should be a sedate moment for you to build up atmosphere, but it doesn't really happen here because of some things I'm going to mention, especially when we get to sound, music, and voice. Graphically, though, is one place where I think Little Hope does even better in the strictest tense. Characters are motion capped and well thought out, and their body rigs, though, seem artificially stilted, especially in the modern recorded time sections. Other than that, though, it's really good. Fear and hate and anger and all those things can be seen on the faces of the character. No one has any really bad parts. There's an odd line here or there, but it's nothing like the terrible Man of Medan's "Come at me, shark" from the first game. However, audio-wise, it really doesn't lift itself up. Musically, it's very lean with some atmospheric synths that ebb up and creep in during tense moments and some other places, but it's atmospherically pretty bound just to its vocals and its sound work, one of which is great, one of which not so much. Musically, it's pretty lean. It's got some atmospheric synths that ebb up and creep around during the tense moments. It's atmospherically pretty bound to the vocals and the sound work, though. However, the music, when it does play, there's nothing bad there. I would have liked more of it. But speaking of the thing that really does cause issues here, and that is actually, strangely enough, the sound. It's not necessarily bad. I would have liked more atmospheric sounds, though, as sometimes when you're in the forest, it's like someone covered their ears as they're walking. Walk in the forest sometimes, and sure, you could say silence is what's scary, but not after 4 hours. At that point, silence is just quiet as fuck, spelled with one word. Vocally, I do have to say, I like this though. Really, it's not bad at all. And despite the occasional off timing that can occur, especially due to button presses and timing events, it's not bad even if the game's ending lands with the impact of someone telling you there's no Santa when you're friggin' 45 and you've played him 3 times for your nieces and nephews. It is not a good ending. The game takes about 4 hours, but feels like 6. And if you want to go through it again, you can do so again in a director's mode, or you can play with 2 players. I mean, if somebody really likes to walk down long roads and look at signs and posters in a horror game, you could do so. But this is a title where when they say you should probably play it twice, you played it that first time and you look at it and you're like, man, seriously? Because it just doesn't invest you in the first time whatsoever. And Little Hope falls down pretty much all the way through with that pacing and the ending. I don't want everything in a horror game. I just want something in the game, especially when popping back into the past starts to really feel like it may be going somewhere. And sure, it's at its own absolutely glacial pace. This makes Ice Ages seem quick, but it's going somewhere, and you can feel that. There's a bit of tension, and there's certainly far more interesting characters in those flashbacks than in the current game. And there's reasons for that. There is, though, too many people to control, and I think that's one of the issues here. It bounces between them too often as well, and instead of being interesting bounces, many bounces, and many times it's only to just walk down the opposite stretch of the road. If there's ever a low-budget horror movie you see where there's like 11 people, so they keep recycling the same 4 kids in the background and having them change like a fucking magician stagehand, that's pretty much what this feels like. It's possible, I just don't get it. That is possible. It's speaking maybe another language that requires its own horror-based Rosetta Stone. It's never scary. It's hardly anxious. And when it does try to scare you with jump scares, that becomes obvious that there'll be a jump scare after, no lie, the 3rd time. Little Hope seems oblivious that the player has spent even an hour in its game world and keeps trying it over and over and over again. And it's just, at some point, you're celebrating that it's over. Like this review. But it's not over just yet. So I decided to give this a chance and played with somebody 2-player. Yeah, played through it again, changes nothing. And that'll bring me to my rating. Oh, well, fun factor. Yeah, there were some parts that were pretty okay. As you guys know, I rate them buy, wait for sale, rent, or never touch, and rent is replaced by deep, deep sale on PC if that is the score I give it, and that is the score I'm going to give it, deep, deep sale. You know, it's at a $30 price point. I could see somebody maybe getting this for $5 to $10 and having a pretty okay time, especially because of the voice acting and wanting to play these kind of games. But at the current price it's at, it's just, at least for me, wasn't even offering close to that return. So anyway, that's it for me. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Maybe check out Reddit and Twitter and Facebook, and you become a patron if you want. The patron helps me, of course, hang out with my dogs, buy a bunch of stuff I don't need. You know how it is, us YouTubers. That's why I put up the pictures of the PS5 inside of that jet plane, because that's definitely on the hard-earned cash in the backs of the patrons. So join one of us in the patron, come on into one of the levels, and you know what? Hang out with a good group and, pay for my drug habit. Peace out.